Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A pleasure to have you here with us in London. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction to your film. What can audiences expect when they watch it?
My name is Saim Sadiq, and I'm the writer and director of Joyland. My film is set in Pakistan. It's about a very conservative Rana family who are yearning for the birth of a baby boy, a very patriarchal family, and things take a turn from them when the youngest son of the family takes a job at an erotic dance theater and starts falling in love with a trans girl, and how that exposes sort of the secrets and desires of the entire family and sort of makes them face the cost of patriarchy on their humanity for each of the members of the family. So yeah, it's a film about gender, about desire, about patriarchy, and just how to remain compassionate in a world where compassion is not the best currency.
And so very bold, original, but also feels very topical, sort of very hotly debated themes that come out. What was the initial inspiration?
The initial inspiration was 7 years ago when these topics were not that hot, and they became pretty sort of hot button topics in the making of the film, for good or for better or for worse. But for me, I think it's really wanting to discuss femininity and masculinity and sort of the set molds and sort of molds that we have to exist in as men and women, and how much do we really benefit from those ideals that every woman and every man spend their entire lives trying to subscribe to, and almost every man and every woman fails because there's no way that you can really fit the definition 100% of what you're supposed to be as a man or a woman. But we spend our entire lives, women spend their entire lives trying to be conventionally beautiful and look a certain way, and be sexualized by men, and the men spend their entire lives trying to be more masculine than they really want to be, or to earn a living, or to be stricter than they feel like being. And for me, like, I never really saw a human being who was actually happy with that truly, but everybody seemed to be okay with it on the surface. So I wanted to explore those themes, and there was something that I personally believed in, and that just led me to the story of the film and these characters, and it just developed over the course of time, and turned into the film that hopefully you all will watch.
And what were maybe some of the challenges you had along the way of casting and shooting? And what were some of the highlights for you?
Well, the casting was interesting because it's an ensemble cast, but the three leads are new. They're all debut. It's a debut film, and the supporting cast, which is very very important, also are all very professional, very very like big veteran, famous actors from Pakistan. But it was tough to cast the lead character for sure, the guy's character, because we auditioned for 6 months, and most people were like not good enough for the character because it's a very hard part to play. And the ones who were decent enough, when they read the script, they said no because they didn't want to do it. Even though they were new actors, they were not like famous actors, but they were like, "Oh, we'll wait for a next chance. We may never get a chance to do a film, but this film we don't want to do," because they were like, "We want to watch it, but we can't do this character because it scared them." Because it's a character that goes into murky spaces, and they were like, "Oh, we safety issues. People don't want to again talk about sexuality at all." So luckily, eventually, we ended up finding Ali Juneja, who's, I think, made this film and my life very happy, because he's an exceptionally talented actor, and I think he just approached the film with such a this kind of unfettered bravery, and like just this artistic intent which was so pure at heart, and that same goes for every other actor, for Rasti, for Sarvat, for Alina, for every actor in the film. I think it's just been a joy to work with them, and I think the film would not be even half as good if even one of them was not a part of it, because they really just come together to make it real.
And what do you hope people to take away from the film? And has it almost surprised you, like you were saying there, just in the making of it? It feels like on some things we're progressing and people become more tolerant and more open-minded, and then on other aspects, it feels like we're going backwards. Particularly if you talk about the trans issue, the trans experience. Feels like it's very controversial. And in 2022, why is that? So, how do you think films like this can also add into that debate, or perhaps help foster empathy in a world where there doesn't seem to be any?
No, I think it's the latter. I think certainly fostering empathy, and there's a difference in. I remember Ali put it so well yesterday when we were talking. It was like there's a difference in looking at a character and sort of a film that shows you a trans character or a female character, and a film that actually puts you in their shoes, where you're like you don't look at them as the trans person. You look at that character as like, oh, I am relating to this person who also happens to be trans, So you form the connect with those characters first, and then you bring their gender almost as a secondary issue, because it is. It's not the be all and end all. A trans person is not going to be trans in every situation. They're courageous or scared or brave or happy or sad. There's so much more to that person's humanity than just their gender. And I think just exploring the other side helps you connect to them far easier. And then you talk about the thing that is different, which is the gender part of it all. So for me, I think fostering empathy and just leaving the theater with a sense of compassion and questions that will not that the film refuses to answer in clean ways. And I hope people also realize that there are some questions that are not so easy to answer, and it's okay. There's gender, sexuality. These are very complex things, and they need to be investigated more than sort of pass judgments on. Yeah, I think approaching it from that perspective will just make everybody chill out a little bit more, and engage with people around them, and with just greater humanity. Yeah.
And what does it mean to you to have your film here as London, part of the London Film Festival? But also, how do you see the sort of landscape at the moment? Because I guess film festivals aren't always necessarily representative of the whole cinema landscape. And do you think there's enough space for different types of stories to be told, for filmmakers of color or actors of color for their stories to be represented on screen?
Of course, there is more space today than there was before. Is that space as even like remotely egalitarian as opposed to the space for a white man versus a brown woman? I think it's, of course, like the disparity would be huge today, as far as representation is concerned, but not as far as the population, like demographically. So yes, there's a long way to go, but it's a better time than it was 10 years ago. So one must be thankful for that. I'm here. So I guess some people are putting their might behind a brown filmmaker as well. It's been really lovely. I love the city. I really, really am very fond of the city. I think it's a beautiful city, and it's very, very charming and funny. So I just like being here, and I think BFI has had always, of course, for many, many decades, such an important part in sort of creating and curating debate around movies. And of course, it's always a debate that stays in the film circles, and that may not be the mainstream taste always. But I'm hopeful that I think there are many films that are sort of cracking the hybrid now, where they are small films, they look like niche films, but then when you actually see them in a theater, you're like, well, with Joyland, I think it started off and everybody thought, oh, it's a niche film, it's in Urdu language, who wants to watch this? Except for like a very film festival kind of an audience.